guys, this is Shreya, your friendly neighborhood yogi mama. I have a pose breakdown for you today. Let's go over downward facing dog, which is the most basic of inversions and a foundational pose for any yoga practice. I'll be going over the basics of the pose, how to transition in and out of it during the practice, and some common improvements that I've had some of my students make as well as I've made myself. So let's get started. One of the first things you want to do when getting into a downward facing dog is finding out a good placement for your palms and for your feet. So the way I like to do this is to start out in a child's pose. Sinking your hips back, taking your knees wide. Just getting into your child's pose, breathing here for a few breaths. Here, taking your fingertips as far forward as they'll go. And then keeping your palms and your feet where they are. Begin to lift up and tuck your toes under. Shift your hips up and back. Here's your downward facing dog. So from here, if you feel like this is too much space between your palms and your feet, you can always walk a little bit forward. But typically, you don't need to go any further apart than that. Breathing here. One of the things in downward facing dog that I see a lot is people rounding their backs. So this tends to happen for many different reasons, but one quick fix to this is just to gently bend your knees so that your spine can straighten out. There's nothing wrong with bending your knees in downward facing dog, especially if you have tighter hamstrings. Over time, you'll work on that flexibility and be able to straighten your legs more and more and more. Another common misconception in downward facing dog is that your heels have to reach the ground. This is absolutely not true. As you can see, mine don't reach the ground. A lot of that depends on your ankle mobility, your flexibility, as well as just your anatomy. It is true that you want to energetically press your heels and send that energy downward all the way from your tailbone to your heels. At the same time, you're lifting that tailbone, you're creating space between your heels and your tailbone. Your chest back towards your thighs. Another thing you really want to pay attention to is your palms and your grip. So you want your fingertips as wide as they'll go. You want to press into the base of your index finger and thumb. And continuing to breathe. Another thing that I see people doing is not engaging their core here. Downward facing dog is an inversion where engaging your core is actually really easy. So hug the belly button up and in as far as it'll go, really locking in that core. Uddiyana Bandha. And then breathing deeply. At any point in downward facing dog during your practice, if you feel like it's too overwhelming, you can always replace it with child's pose. Another common thing I see people doing is having a really, really wide down dog. So this is somewhere between a plank and a downward facing dog, and it's not very conducive to getting the benefits of the pose. So just simply walking your feet in, maybe even taking them as wide as your mat, is another variation that you can take here. Something else I hear people complain about in downward facing dog is having wrist pain. So if you already have some weakness or pain in your wrists, this might feel really difficult for you. And if that's the case, you can always take a variation of dolphin pose, which is simply downward facing dog with your forearms down. So here you can keep your wrists in a neutral position and yet still get the same benefits of the inversion. Another thing that I see many people doing in downward facing dog is just letting their shoulders kind of collapse. So that kind of looks something like this. Letting the elbows flare out, shoulders collapse, really just keeping that tension in the traps. So what you really want to do here is, again, use that wide grip, pull your shoulders and ears away from each other, and even face the insides of your elbows slightly forward. You have a slight protraction in your shoulders, and this is really helping you engage and work on that shoulder girdle. So there you have it, some tips and tricks for downward facing dog. Now let's see it in action during a vinyasa. Chances are you'll be starting at the top of your mat, folding forward, sinking back into plank, taking your chaturanga, upward facing dog, then flip those toes over, shift the hips up and back, hug the core in for your downward facing dog. So there you have it, the basics and variations of downward facing dog. I hope you found that helpful, and let me know in the comments below which other poses you would like me to break down for you. If you did like this and found this helpful, make sure you like it and share it with a friend. Thanks again for joining me. Namaste.